Hello, online pipe community. Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here. And today we do have morsels for mental manducation. But first, in a Briarly Prince, so you can see that carving on the bowl, I've got some Esoterica Stonehaven. A nice Virginia Burley blend, probably my favorite Esoterica so far. Today, we are going to dive into the crossover between politics and religion. If you have no interest in that, please go away. Don't go away mad. Just go away. Come back tomorrow. I won't talk about politics or religion tomorrow, promise. But today I wanted to talk about this whole notion of student loan forgiveness. Why? Well, because a popular liberal pastor here in the U.S. has decided to dive into it. I figured I'd respond to him. John Pavlovitz was local here in North Carolina for a while. My understanding, he was actually fired from 2 different pastoral positions, at least in part because of his liberal theological positions. You see, John Pavlovitz is a pastor, but he is certainly not a conservative Christian by any means. He, in a number of areas, does not believe the Bible to mean what it actually says. We can have that discussion offline if you'd like to have some instances. Unlike myself, I do believe that the Bible means what it says, particularly when it comes to moral and theological issues. Now, I'm going to share with you Pavlovitz's tweet from last week. Take a look. Conservative Christians are fully enraged at hashtag student loan forgiveness, missing the irony that their entire professed religion is based on the idea of a canceled debt. Way to lose the plot, kids. Well, when you have to close your argument with an ad hominem attack instead of actually discussing the merits of the subject itself, you're on the losing end right there. You put yourself on a bad footing. Now, the comparison of biblical grace, the forgiveness of sin, and this idea of student loan forgiveness and equating the two is one of the more shallow comparisons and analogies that I've seen. But that's not entirely surprising. Pavlovitz here thinks he's being clever and owning conservative Christians. All he's doing is exposing his liberality and his lack of biblical belief. I won't say understanding. I'm convinced he understands what the Bible actually says. He just doesn't agree with it. Now, he uses the terms forgiveness and debt here in a single sentence, but in 2 different contexts. And those contexts are dissimilar enough that the concepts that they represent don't equate. Now, it is true that on the cross, when Jesus said, "It is finished," the words that he was actually using were accounting terms, saying that a debt has been paid, and in fact, in this case, a debt has been not merely paid, but on our part canceled. Okay, we can certainly concede that because it's true. However, that's where the similarities between the 2 contexts entirely break down. You see, the biblical forgiveness of sin is for a debt that we ourselves cannot repay. Not merely cannot because we don't have enough of something, we can't do it. That the sin debt that we have requires sacrifice. In this case, the sacrifice of the perfect lamb. Theological point. But we couldn't make that sacrifice ourselves. It had to be done for us. The another place where this completely breaks down is in the repayment, the cancellation of our sin debt. No one else is forced to pay that sin debt for us. Why? Well, they can't. It's not just a matter of not having enough money or enough something. They literally can't. There was only one person in human history who could do that. In the forgiveness of our sin debt, our debt is being canceled voluntarily by the person to whom that debt is owed. In the forgiveness of student loans, this isn't forgiveness. This is taking taxpayer money to pay off loans that banks who hold that debt should never have given in the first place. If you wanted to make this analogous, then you should be complaining that the banks are not forgiving this debt, that they are not canceling the debt. They're the ones to whom the debt is owed. What we're doing is forcing a third party to come in and rescue the banks who made bad decisions and the borrowers who made bad decisions. It's not analogous in the slightest. So when you break down these two completely different concepts of forgiveness or cancellation of a debt, there isn't anything remotely Christian even in concept about forcing through taxation people who either chose not to go to college because they couldn't afford it and didn't want to take out loans, or chose to go to college without taking out loans, military service, scholarships, etc., or took out the loans and paid them off. There is nothing Christian or moral about forcing those people to cover the debt of people and banks who made bad decisions. Nothing at all. This isn't Christian grace. This is government coercion. There's a world of difference there. Now, if as a Christian you feel like you should help people who made bad decisions with their money out, feel free. That's Christian grace. But forcing people and taxation, this is forcing people to cover the debts of other people. There is nothing biblical or Christian about that, about making one person pay another person's debt. The analogy just does not hold water. So thanks for the attempt, but you haven't owned Christian conservatives in the slightest. The kids have not lost the narrative. With that, light something you like. Get a little outraged about having to pay for bad decisions by other people. But enjoy your afternoon.